60-count second superseding indictment was handed down by a federal grand jury in Nashville. The indictment came down Monday, charging 9 members of MS-13.
Officials say that the Treetop Pirus gang was under investigation by the Knoxville Police Department for the last 5 years.
Officers released a sweeping indictment of 16 suspected leaders in the Gangster Disciples street gang. These 8 called Jackson home. Each were indicted on RICO conspiracy and racketeering charges.
54 Athens Park Bloods were indicted and 44 of them were in court today. 44 defendants means 44 different attorneys, and the judge had to look outside of Hamilton County just to make sure there were enough people to represent them.
Of a violent South American gang found living in the suburbs of Middle Tennessee. Police arresting 2 people that they say ran a sex slavery operation.
Tennessee has been the battleground for numerous law enforcement operations targeting violent gangs involved in deletion, drug trafficking, and organized crime. Federal and state authorities have worked relentlessly to dismantle these criminal organizations, many of which have long histories of violence, witness intimidation, and drug distribution. Over the years, notorious gangs such as MS-13, the Athens Park Bloods, Tren de Aragua, Clarksville Mongols Motorcycle Club, Gangster Disciples, Mafia Insane Vice Lords, Treetop Pirus, Memphis Mob, and the Dixie Holmes Squad have operated within Tennessee, spreading violence and illicit activity across multiple communities. Their criminal enterprises have included deletion, large-scale drug trafficking, human trafficking, racketeering, and violent retaliation against perceived threats or rival groups.
The 9 members of the transnational criminal organization MS-13 face charges dealing with racketeering conspiracy, which includes things like drug distribution and the allegation of 7 in Nashville between 2016 and 2017. Officials worked to get these 9 members of MS-13 off Nashville streets. These are the members that have been indicted. This isn't the first major indictment dealing with the MS-13 gang. Back in 2017, 13 members of the gang were charged and convicted with racketeering offenses.
Get your hands up there!
That's Kevin Tidwell after running from Williamson County deputies, Brentwood police, and U.S. Marshals in a high-speed pursuit.
Crawl out towards me!
Tidwell is one of the 9 members of the MS-13 gang named in the federal indictment, accused in the 2017 Jesus Flores in Antioch and the deadly shooting of Amarillo Garcia Munoz in a Murfreesboro Pike Strip Mall parking lot, both within a 6-day period. Additional include that of 19-year-old Jorge Alvarado, found shot to death in a field in South Nashville. 18-year-old Liliana Rodriguez, I-24, the shooting death of a man whose body was found in the trunk of a burned car in Cheatham County, and the death of Yerry Gabina and Hector Gabata at a South Nashville apartment complex. Investigators believe at the hands of Oster Delgado Flores. Investigators saying Nashville's streets are safer tonight, but that this is just a step at booting the gang from our community.
9 members of the MS-13 gang have been indicted for multiple violent crimes, including 7 deletions, kidnappings, assaults, robberies, and large-scale drug distribution. Attorney for the Middle District of Tennessee, Mary Jane Stewart, stated, MS-13 is one of the most violent, ruthless, and cold-blooded gangs to ever walk the face of the earth. Authorities reported that an MS-13 subunit, specifically the Thompson Place Los Salvatrucha clique, had been operating in Nashville since at least 2014. One of the earliest crimes linked to the gang occurred on April 6, 2016, when MS-13 members, including Jose Pineda Casas, lured Jorge Alejandro Potter Alvarado to a secluded field in Davidson County under the pretense of smoking marijuana. Believing he was a rival gang member, they confronted him before shooting him multiple times and leaving him to die.
Good evening. Liliana Rodriguez, or Lily for short, just graduated from Hunters Lane High School this past May and was enjoying the summer with her brother and friends when the unthinkable happened.
Liliana, her older brother Rodrigo, and their friends enjoyed a night out at La Mansión Club on Antioch Pike.
That day, she's so happy.
She never made it back home.
I did notice a car trailing behind.
Rodrigo was driving as the 4 of them left the club.
Car pulled up next to us and, I heard a bang.
Thinking it was nothing more than an engine backfire, the group kept going. But Rodrigo said he noticed the vehicle trailing them was beginning to act aggressively.
Once we were getting close to the split between downtown and our exit, you know, I heard probably like 4 or 5 more.
That's when he realized they were being shot at.
Lily's friend.
On July 31st, 2016, 18-year-old Liliana Rodriguez met her demise in a drive-by shooting on Interstate 24 West. That night, Pineda Caceres and other MS-13 members attended a South Nashville nightclub, where they suspected another individual of being a rival gang member. After leaving the club, they chased the suspect's vehicle on the highway and fired multiple shots, deleting Rodriguez, who was an unintended victim. Pineda Caceres later fled the U.S., but was arrested upon his return in November 2017. On January 18, 2017, Jorge Flores and another MS-13 member attempted to delete a man identified as RV and 3 others in Nashville. They chased RV's vehicle from a Walmart parking lot, cornered it, and opened fire, hitting RV multiple times. A month later, MS-13 members planned to delete 2 rival drug dealers, victims 6 and 7, along with an MS-13 associate who had connections with them. On February 18, 2017, the gang pursued their victims for miles, shooting at them and into a crowded South Nashville nightclub. The following week, they shot one of the victims in the neck and torso, causing life-threatening injuries. But police intervened and provided medical aid.
New this morning, the search is on for several gunmen after a man was shot in his car. This all happened at a strip mall in South Nashville off Murfreesboro Pike this morning.
All of this unfolding around 12:30 Sunday morning. Multiple people called 911 on reports of hearing that gunfire. Officers responded to a parking lot at a strip mall on Thompson Place at Murfreesboro Pike. They found a man in his car who had been shot multiple times. This is near the Sheba Restaurant and Memories Hookah Lounge.
On May 21, 2017, Amerly Josue Garcia Munoz was gunned down in a strip mall parking lot after MS-13 members mistook him for a rival gang member. Similarly, on May 27, 2017, Jesus Alberto Flores was deleted in a drive-by shooting in Antioch. MS-13 member Kevin Tidwell had earlier argued with victim 11 at a convenience store. Later, Tidwell and another gang member followed him in a truck, firing shots with an AK-47 and a 9mm pistol, ultimately deleting him. To cover their tracks, they burned the truck in an abandoned field. The indictment also includes multiple instances of kidnapping and brutal assaults. On June 17, 2017, MS-13 members confronted a man at a nightclub who had falsely claimed gang affiliation. They summoned additional members, leading to a violent altercation. One of them retrieved an AK-47 and fired a warning shot before forcing the victim into a car and taking him to a secluded location, where they beat him. On July 25, 2017, MS-13 member Gerson Serrano Ramirez kidnapped and tortured a man, whom he accused of cooperating with law enforcement. Serrano Ramirez choked him with a rifle strap, sprayed bleach in his eyes, suffocated him with a plastic bag, and broke his finger with pliers. On September 24, 2017, Luis Miguel Colindres Varela deleted Jose Pagada at a South Nashville nightclub, suspecting him of being a rival gang member. To ensure there were no witnesses, Colindres Varela also deleted Yeri Hernandez Gabino, one of Pagada's companions. That same day, MS-13 members lured another victim to a meeting in Nashville, deleted him, and burned his body in the trunk of a car to eliminate evidence. These indictments mark a major step in dismantling MS-13's operations in Nashville.
The community says its final goodbyes to a mother and key witness in an upcoming trial.
Family and friends of Bianca Horton gathered today for her funeral at Olivet Baptist Church.
Cortez Sims shot her daughter, and 2 others in a home invasion just last year. Officers say she bravely worked with them, and her death was even tragic for those who see violence every day.
54 Athens Park Bloods were indicted and 44 of them were in court today. 44 defendants means 44 different attorneys, and the judge had to look outside of Hamilton County just to make sure there were enough people to represent them.
Bureau of Investigation says Chattanooga Police and the U.S. Marshal Service helped with the search and that arrest. Sims now facing several charges, including first degree for the January 7th shooting at College Hill Court.
While he was only 17, he had already been in trouble with the law as well as multiple schools.
Which quickly filled up with accused Athens Park Bloods gang members, their families, and attorneys. In fact, it was so packed with lawyers, many didn't have anywhere to sit.
Are you represented by a lawyer? Are you able to afford to hire a lawyer?
Most of the defendants claimed they couldn't pay for their own attorney to fight these racketeering and conspiracy charges, but with such a large group of accused criminals, it was a struggle to find people who could represent them. Many of the lawyers who typically would take on these cases, like Hamilton County public defenders and criminal defense attorneys, had conflicts
First of all, investigators are searching for the person who shot an 8th grade boy to death at his Chattanooga home. Police and neighbors say 13-year-old DeAndre Southers wasn't the intended target, but he was the latest victim in an ongoing retaliation between two rival gangs, the Athens Park Bloods and the Bounty Hunter Bloods. 11 bullet holes were found in the East 50th Street house where DeAndre lived. His mother found him wounded downstairs, and her son died on the way to the hospital.
In 2018, a Tennessee grand jury indicted 54 members of the Athens Park Bloods, marking a significant effort to combat gang-related violence in Chattanooga. Among those indicted, 3 individuals, Andre Grier, Charles Shelton, and Courtney High, were charged with the May 25, 2016 demise of Bianca Horton. Horton was set to testify against fellow gang member Cortez Sims for the demise of Talitha Bowman, but was deleted before she could take the stand. Due to the nature of the crime, prosecutors sought the death penalty for Grier, Shelton, and High. In January 2019, District Attorney Neil Pinkston prioritized bringing these 3 defendants to trial in the capital case before proceeding with the broader RICO conspiracy case against the other defendants. The indictment also included other deletion charges linked to Athens Park Bloods members. Cortez Sims was charged with the January 20, 2014 deletion of 13-year-old DeAndre Southers. Curdell Collier, Martrell Arnold, and Johnny Clemens were charged with the June 25, 2014 deletion of Cedric Mikes. In addition to the charges for Bianca Horton's deletion, Courtney High was charged with 2 other deletions: the June 12, 2016 deletion of Jerica Jackson and the August 16, 2016 deletion of Marquise Jackson. The charge for Jerica Jackson's deletion was later amended to include RICO elements.
Now to Operation Crime and Justice. Members of a violent South American gang found living in the suburbs of Middle Tennessee. Police arresting 2 people that they say ran a sex slavery operation for Tren de Aragua. Fox 17 News' Karen Aguilar joining us here in studio tonight to break down these new arrests. Karen?
Megan, investigators say the 2 arrested linked to Tren de Aragua coerced the victims to come to the United States under false pretenses and instead were enslaved in the Nashville area.
Young, vulnerable, poor women forced into prostitution in the Nashville area after investigators say they were lured into the country with lies, promising them a better life, manipulating them to pay more than their travel costs using their bodies. Venezuelans Yilibet del Carmen Rivero de Caldera and her son Cleaver Daniel Mota Rivero are now under arrest, accused of trapping these women in a life of misery. Investigators say they use their Tren de Aragua ties to scare the women into commercial sex and exploitation. They and 6 others are facing human trafficking charges for an operation beginning in 2022.
On that crime tracker alert, 8 Venezuelan nationals facing federal indictments accused of sex trafficking young women right here in Middle Tennessee. Now, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Nashville says members of the ring took the victims to hotels across Nashville and created online advertisements for the women to engage in. Investigators say the group targeted poor and vulnerable women from Venezuela and other South and Central American countries with the promise they'd have a better life here. Now, Metro Police Chief John Drake describes what happened after these women were moved to Tennessee.
Once here, we believe those women were forced into commercial sex trade to settle their outrageously high travel debts.
In February 2025, federal authorities in Tennessee unsealed a 4-count indictment charging 8 Venezuelan nationals with operating a transnational commercial sex enterprise linked to the notorious Tren de Aragua (TD) gang. This case sheds light on the gang's expanding criminal footprint in the United States and highlights the collaborative efforts of law enforcement to dismantle human trafficking networks. According to the indictment, the defendants lured young women from Venezuela and other South and Central American countries to the United States under false promises of legitimate work opportunities. Upon arrival, these women were coerced into commercial sex work to repay exorbitant debts imposed by traffickers. The victims were often threatened with violence, and some had their children and immigration documents confiscated to ensure compliance. The indictment named the following individuals as key figures in the operation: Yilabeth Del Carmen Rivero de Caldera, 51, alleged leader of the operation alongside her son; Cliver Daniel Mota Rivero, 35, believed to have direct ties to TDA and responsible for intimidation tactics; Yurabetsi Del Valle Gomez Machuca, 39, charged with overseeing operations within Nashville motels; Wilmaurice Del Valle Manzano Solorzano, 22, Frankiana Del Valle Romero Rivero, 30, Endrick Alexander Morales Rivero, 25, Jesus Enrique Castillo Rodriguez, 24, and Arianes Beatriz Gutierrez Carrillo, 24, all allegedly played roles in advertising, logistics, and victim control. The operation, which spanned from July 2022 through March 2024, used Nashville motels as a base for commercial sex activities. The traffickers placed advertisements on websites and coordinated transactions using internet and cellular communications. Victims were moved between different states to avoid detection, making this a complex interstate crime. Tren de Aragua, originally a Venezuelan prison gang, has rapidly expanded its operations across Latin America and the United States. The group is notorious for its involvement in human trafficking, drug smuggling, and violent crimes. In July 2024, the U.S. Department of the Treasury designated TDA as a transnational criminal organization due to its growing influence and operational scope.
Of the Mongols motorcycle gang started with of a woman in a Bumpus Mills cemetery. This is the gang's website. They have a chapter in Tennessee. Members of the group are facing a number of serious charges, such as burning down another motorcycle club or large-scale drug trafficking of 50 pounds for hundreds of thousands of dollars in drug profit to a member of the Mongols California chapter. Here are 9 of the 15 men who are accused. These are James Frazier, Alex Santiago, Kyle Heed, Joel Aldridge, Michael Forrester, Robert Humiston, Michael West, Dustin McCracken, and Timothy Grant. Not seen are Michael Myers, Adriana Frazier, Jamie Hearn, Derek Stanley, and James Hines. Only Stephen Cole has not been taken into custody. Clarksville police announced him missing in late November.
In January 2018, a federal indictment was unsealed, charging 15 members and associates of the Clarksville chapter of the Mongols Motorcycle Club in Tennessee with various crimes, including racketeering conspiracy, deletions, kidnapping, drug trafficking, and money laundering. The indictment detailed a pattern of violent and criminal activity spanning several years, ultimately leading to the dismantling of the organization. According to court documents, the Clarksville Mongols sought to establish dominance in the region by engaging in violent acts. This included burning down the Sin City Motorcycle Club's clubhouses in Clarksville and Nashville in 2015, acts meant to intimidate rival groups and assert their control. On May 22, 2015, members of the Mongols Motorcycle Club kidnapped a young mother, referred to as Victim 1, after suspecting her of stealing narcotics, money, and firearms from them. She was abducted at gunpoint and transported to a remote area behind a cemetery, where she met her demise. Her body was recovered nearly 15 months later, confirming suspicions of her brutal demise. The second kidnapping involved fellow Mongols member Stephen Cole. On November 19, 2017, members of the Clarksville Mongols kidnapped Cole at gunpoint, stripped him of his belongings, and took him to a residence in Trenton, Kentucky. There, he was restrained, tortured, and brutally beaten for hours, suffering multiple broken bones, including fractured vertebrae, ribs, and a broken eye socket. Eventually, he met his demise in a particularly gruesome manner by having a 10-inch tent stake driven through his head. His body was later buried in a secluded field behind an abandoned residence and was not discovered until nearly a year later. In addition to these violent acts, the Clarksville Mongols engaged in widespread drug trafficking, distributing in Tennessee and Kentucky. The organization also laundered money through various schemes, attempting to legitimize their illicit earnings. The prosecution of the Mongols resulted in 18 members and associates being sentenced to federal prison terms ranging from time served to life plus 30 years. Authorities described the group's activities as a reign of terror that impacted multiple communities across the region.
These 8 called Jackson home. Each were indicted on RICO conspiracy and racketeering charges involving the distribution of. Here's a look at each and the positions prosecutors say they held in the gang. This is Byron Purdy. The 37-year-old held the rank of governor of Tennessee's Gangster Disciples. He made it onto our air several times and has served time in prison. Marcus Crawford was once the chief of security in Tennessee. Daniel Cole, who acted as assistant governor and assistant education coordinator in Jackson. Both were charged in 2015 with attacking a woman. Santiago Shaw was a member of the security team or Blackout Squad in Jackson. We've reported on him several times, including in 2015 for illegally having a gun. 27-year-old Tommy Champion held the rank of chief of security in Jackson. Records show he was charged in connection with the shooting at Club Karma in 2012. Corey Bowers acted as a member of the security team in Jackson and has a lengthy record, including a drug arrest in 2015. Gerald Hampton was also a member of the security team or Blackout Squad in Jackson. State records show he's currently in state prison. And Terrius Taylor held a similar rank with the Gangster Disciples. He faces an additional 7 counts of attempted and 7 firearms counts.
In a sweeping federal crackdown, law enforcement targeted high-ranking members of the Gangster Disciples in Tennessee, leading to the indictment of 16 individuals on racketeering and drug trafficking charges. The investigation, which began in 2016, uncovered a network of organized criminal activities, including drug distribution, violent crimes, and attempted deletions. Byron Montreal Purdy, also known as Lil B or Ghetto, served as the governor of the Gangster Disciples in Tennessee. As one of the highest-ranking members of the organization, he oversaw large-scale drug distribution and gang-related violence. In 2017, Purdy pleaded guilty to racketeering charges, and in January 2018, he was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. Another significant conviction was that of Demarcus Ian Crawford, known as Trip, who held the rank of chief enforcer for the gang in Tennessee. He played a direct role in coordinating violent attacks, including ordering shootings of rival gang members to maintain control over territory. Crawford was convicted of RICO conspiracy and sentenced to 25 years in prison, a ruling that reinforced federal authorities' commitment to dismantling the gang's leadership. Other high-ranking members of the Gangster Disciples were also charged, particularly those involved in security and enforcement. In a historic move, Knox County law enforcement launched a major crackdown on the Mafia Insane Vice Lords, a violent street gang tied to distribution and organized crime in the region. In July 2016, District Attorney General Charm Allen announced the indictment of 6 individuals accused of operating a large-scale heroin ring. The indictment alleged that these individuals not only sold H but operated as a criminal enterprise, making money, enforcing gang rules, and committing violent acts to maintain control over their operation. The prosecution took a tragic turn when Abraham Bricks James Owens, a key defendant, met his demise on October 10, 2017, just days before his scheduled trial. He was shot multiple times in northwest Knoxville. Following Owens' death, Dayton D. Darrell Matthews pleaded guilty to conspiracy to possess and distribute in a drug-free zone. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison, with parole eligibility after 12 years.
Officials say that the Tree Top Pirus gang was under investigation by the Knoxville Police Department for the last 5 years. Officers reportedly seized drugs, weapons, cell phones, and other evidence tying the 6 men to the gang. They're all sentenced for multiple crimes, including...
The Knoxville Police Department initiated an investigation in 2017 targeting trafficking activities centered around the Walter P. Taylor Homes apartment complex. This probe uncovered extensive criminal operations conducted by members of the Tree Top Pirus gang, leading to a series of indictments. A central figure in the investigation, Raffle Malik Griffin, Jr., played a key role in the Tree Tops gang's operations in Knoxville. The investigation began in 2017, revealing that Griffin was operating within a highly organized drug distribution network. His criminal activities were centered around the Walter P. Taylor Homes apartment complex, where trafficking was rampant. Law enforcement officials seized significant amounts of drugs, firearms, and digital evidence linking Griffin to these crimes. One of the most critical events in the case was the demise of Juan Washington on January 17, 2018. Washington, a fellow Tree Top Pirus gang member, was deleted by Griffin and other gang members after refusing orders to travel to California for a retaliatory shooting. This deletion was orchestrated to enforce discipline within the gang and maintain its violent grip on operations. At trial, Griffin was convicted of first-degree premeditated deletion for his role in Washington's deletion. Due to the gang-related nature of his crimes, sentencing enhancements applied, leading to a life sentence for deletion plus an additional 25 years for drug and firearm offenses. Following his conviction, Griffin appealed his case, arguing that the evidence presented was insufficient to support his conviction and that errors were made in allowing certain testimonies. However, the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals upheld the trial court's decision, ensuring that Griffin would remain incarcerated.
Good evening. The crackdown continues on the mobsters who moved to Albuquerque because they thought it was a good town for bad guys.
4 alleged leaders of the outfit known as the Memphis Mob found themselves facing a judge today on charges that could put them away for a long time.
Between 31 and 45 members of the Memphis Mob for a long list of crimes. Now prosecutors are going after the organizers of the gang for racketeering. Today, 4 more were arraigned and arrested. William Macklin, DeCario Richardson, Monta Claiborne, and Russell Franklin, who appeared earlier in the day. A 5th suspect, Mark Bradford, failed to appear, and as a result, a warrant was issued for his arrest. Police say this group as a whole has created an extensive criminal enterprise on the streets of Albuquerque. Police have said that the gang moved here some 3 years ago after some members were relocated because of Hurricane Katrina. They decided the laws here were lax, and they liked them. Well, these 10 are the only members charged with racketeering. Prosecutors say more charges and arrests could follow.
In 2019, a significant law enforcement operation targeted the Memphis Mob Street Gang in Tennessee, leading to the indictment of 38 individuals involved in a drug trafficking ring. The 7-month investigation culminated in charges that included possession and distribution of controlled substances, with many defendants facing gang enhancement counts due to their alleged affiliation with the Memphis Mob. One notable case involved Jaquez Mob Kilo Reverend, a 25-year-old Memphis resident. He was sentenced to over 18 years in federal prison for conspiring to distribute and discharging a firearm during a drug trafficking crime. The investigation revealed that Reverend and his associates operated a drug distribution house in North Memphis. In March 2019, following a theft of narcotics from this location, Reverend was involved in a shooting targeting a vehicle occupied by 5 individuals, including a minor, resulting in 1 injury. In 2017, a comprehensive 9-month investigation by the Memphis Police Department's Organized Crime Unit led to the indictment of 25 individuals involved in a significant drug distribution operation in Memphis, Tennessee. Among those indicted, at least 15 were identified as members of the Dixie Holmes Murder Squad, a violent street gang that originated in the former Dixie Homes housing project. The investigation commenced in April 2017 following a noticeable increase in H and fentanyl overdoses in and around the Memphis Medical District. Undercover officers conducted operations that resulted in the seizure of substantial quantities of illegal substances. Additionally, 5 firearms and approximately $200,000 in cash were confiscated from various locations throughout the city and Shelby County. Further developments in the case included the conviction of Derek Johnson, a 59-year-old identified as a major H supplier for the Dixie Homes murder squad. In February 2022, Johnson was convicted on 2 felony counts of conspiracy to possess with intent to sell, with evidence indicating he sold up to 500 grams, more than a pound, to street-level dealers in the gang. Johnson faced 15 to 25 years in prison on each count. The 2017 indictment of the Dixie Homes murder squad marked a pivotal moment in Memphis's fight against organized crime, reflecting a determined stance by law enforcement to disrupt and dismantle violent gangs operating within the city. The widespread indictments and convictions of gang members across Tennessee reflect a major law enforcement effort to dismantle organized crime networks that have long plagued communities. Whether through violent homicides, drug trafficking, human trafficking, or organized racketeering, these gangs have left a devastating impact on Tennessee cities, from Nashville to Memphis, Clarksville to Knoxville. Federal and state agencies, in collaboration with local law enforcement, have dealt significant blows to these criminal organizations, securing lengthy prison sentences for their leaders and dismantling key elements of their operations. However, the battle against organized crime remains ongoing. New threats continue to emerge, and law enforcement must remain vigilant to prevent gang resurgence. The prosecution of MS-13 members, the Athens Park Bloods, Tren de Aragua, and other violent gangs in Tennessee marks a crucial step in ensuring public safety and reducing gang influence. Law enforcement agencies have reinforced their commitment to preventing organized crime, protecting communities, and holding gang members accountable for their actions. While these indictments and convictions have weakened some of Tennessee's most dangerous gangs, continued efforts, public cooperation, and proactive law enforcement strategies will be essential in maintaining lasting progress in the fight against gang violence and organized crime.